This video will discuss how to read an academic article. But I know how to read, you say. I know that I start at the beginning and read until the article is over. Well, yes, you can do that. But did you know there is a more effective way to approach an academic article, which outlines a study completed by a scholar? And it's not reading the article from start to finish, at least not at first. So grab your article and let's begin the process. This video will use the article Predictors of Student Resilience in Higher Education by Robbins, Kay, and Catling to illustrate parts of an academic article. First, we're going to read the abstract. Most academic articles, especially in sciences and social sciences, have an abstract. It is a summary of the study. Read it carefully to get the gist of the article and to understand it in a broad manner. As you read the abstract, ask yourself, what is the goal of this study? What are the general findings of this study? Are there future recommendations made by the researchers? Let's look at an article's abstract. Here's an example of an abstract. You can see where this abstract addresses the general goal of the question in yellow. The pink highlight indicates the general findings about resilience in this study. Last, the blue discusses implications. This one is pretty vague, but sometimes abstracts will contain a more detailed last sentence about implications. Reading the abstract gives you a framework for understanding the entire article, so don't skip it. Now we are going to move into the introduction. The introduction will probably start with a general approach to the topic and discuss its general importance. Sometimes it will identify itself as the introduction, but sometimes not. Skim the introduction, looking specifically for the research question or a statement discussing the study's research goals. This study's author states what the study's goal is. This can also be written as a question. Either way, skim to find the study's research goal. What problem are they addressing when they conduct this study? Now we are going to look at the background and literature review. This may come after the introduction or it may be lumped in the introduction itself. Either way, if you see in-text citations and discussions of previous studies, you are in the background and literature review section of an article. Your job in this section is to learn about the research on this specific topic. This section should answer the questions, why is research on this specific aspect of the field important? What do other studies say? Good researchers will notice trends. So ask yourself, do multiple studies indicate similar findings? Are there studies that contradict each other in this area? Also, be on the lookout for several studies by the same author. This might indicate a leading expert in the field. You can investigate this author later for related articles. Now we're ready to move on to the discussion. The discussion part of the article is probably the most important part of an academic paper. This part discusses and breaks down the results of the study in easy to understand language without using all the data points. It states what the study suggests about the topic. It will talk about what conclusions the reader can make or what correlations can be made based on the study. It will often discuss future recommendation for actions for readers to take based on the study. In other words, the discussion part answers the question, what can the reader take away from this study? Now, if you're a student gathering many sources for a large research paper, some students stop here and move to other articles. If you are doing an article analysis, keep reading other parts of the article. Here are the first few sentences from the discussion from the article Predictors of Student Resilience in Higher Education. Note how the discussion does not discuss data, but instead talks about findings from the study in general. In academic studies, look for keywords such as indicate, suggest, correlate, conclude, associate, demonstrate, or phrases such as we found evidence that, or evidence was lacking, to understand the takeaway points from the study. For example, this discussion states, specifically, the results indicate that higher self-esteem predicts higher resilience. While there are charts of the results in the article to support this and an in-depth description of these results, this is much easier to understand. This is why we read the discussion before we look at results, visuals, or methodology. We go into those sections with a better understanding of how to interpret them, because the discussion part of the academic paper outlines the findings in an easier to read format. If you are examining the article in depth, the next step is to look at the methodology. The methodology section often discusses how the research study was designed and why. The authors may describe theories behind their design and their own reasons for choosing certain designs. Pay attention to how they chose participants and what the control and variables are, if that's applicable. The authors will often address how they attempted to decrease bias in their study. Studies that use humans often state that their study was approved by an ethics board as well. Here's some snippets of how the authors designed this study. Remember that in an article, the design features may be sprinkled throughout the methods section, or they may be all together. Every study uses a specific method or strategy to test a hypothesis or to gather information. This is called the methodology. There are many strategies available, such as conducting surveys or interviews, observing participants, conducting an experiment, talking to focus groups, or analyzing data that already exist to see if there are correlations. There are many more methods than these, and sometimes an author will combine or mix methods. If you are analyzing the methodology, look closely to determine why they chose the method they did. If you do not understand the terminology used, look it up so you can better understand the approach. This particular study used questionnaire surveys. You can see their rationale when they say that this particular questionnaire was used because of its reliability across samples. A study should always discuss their reasoning for using whichever tool they choose. Last, we are going to look over the results and the visuals. This is the hard data, all the numbers and statistical analyses. There will be mathematical jargon. You may need to Google or YouTube terminology to better understand its meaning. However, reading the discussion beforehand provides a frame for us to understand this information easier. You can also look at the visuals to understand the results. This may include charts and diagrams or other evidence from the study. Based on the discussion, find visuals that highlight important information and consider how the data suggest the overall results. In other words, ask yourself, what do visuals tell us about the findings? And do any of these visuals or any of these data points stand out as important? Here is an excerpt from this study's results. You can see the statistical information is included here. You may need to brush up on your statistical terminology in order to understand the analysis that occurred in the study. However, many authors may explain the data to help you grasp its meaning. Remember, you may always return to the discussion part of the paper to further understand what the results mean. The last part of an academic article is the references list. Now, you do not need to read the references, but you should use the reference list to your advantage. You can use references to find articles that are related to your topic by skimming titles on the list. Maybe you saw an interesting tidbit of information in the literature review and want to read the entire study. You can use the reference list to locate that study. You can also look at reference lists of studies on the same topic and see repeating authors. You can identify who the leading researchers are in the field. These researchers will have many articles on the same topic and are cited in other articles on the topic. This means they are contributing significant amounts of research to the field. Now we've hit every part of an academic article. But if you are doing an analysis on your article, you are now ready to go back and reread the article from beginning to end so that you can understand the study at a deeper level. Reading an academic article is not easy. It takes time, effort, and critical thinking. Be patient with yourself as you complete this task. The more academic articles you read, the more fluent you will become at how to approach published studies. If you need assistance at any point with reading an article, please reach out to a librarian. We will be more than happy to help.